EA Sports announced that they will be bringing back the college football games. And for those of you who are unaware, EA Sports develops a Madden football game pretty much every single year. And they also used to develop a college football game every single year. The last year that they did develop it, however, was in 2013 when Michigan quarterback Denard Robinson was the cover athlete for that game. And the college football games were widely loved. Widely loved. Everybody loved those games. I loved those games growing up as a kid. I love college football. And I think that with the atmosphere that college football brings, with all the traditions, the great uniforms, the dynamics of recruiting your players, redshirting, yada yada, just the entire, I guess, scope of what college football is, I always found that so entertaining. So I was absolutely devastated when they stopped making those games. And they announced on Tuesday that they are bringing the EA Sports college football franchise / series back. Now, there's no date for the game's releasing. It's more of just a widespread announcement that the game is happening. And I could not be more excited yet so terrified, because EA Sports has arguably kind of trashed the Madden franchise recently. I think this year's game, Madden 21, has one of the lower Metacritic ratings in the history of video games. Now, I didn't research that. That's kind of coming off of my own recollection. So for those of you who are fans of video games and fans of the Madden franchise, let me know if I'm correct on that. But the games recently have been very harshly criticized for being very copy and paste, not very intuitive, buggy, not very deep with, your standard sports game modes like franchise mode, my career mode. They haven't been that deep. So, it's the same company that's making those games that is going to be making this college football game. And I a part of it is playing on my nostalgia for sure. It's like I miss playing those football games. I still have friends that play that version of NCAA Football 14, that last version, that last college football game that came out. I still have friends that play that football game, and a lot of people desperately miss it. So a lot of people are excited that this game is coming out, but with the way that EA Sports has been treating the Madden franchise and trashing it for the past 2 years, I am so scared that I'm going to get all of my hopes up and the game is going to be some major butt cheeks. Now, the one thing that I do want to talk about as well with this, and something that's very important, there's been a lot of debate within the last 2 to 3 years about whether or not college players should be able to profit off their likeness and image. And that is something that has been a developing story in Congress and politics and lawmaking, yada yada. And with the potential of this game coming back, we could have a situation in which EA Sports will have to be negotiating with college players to be able to use their likeness in these video games. And that is just a dream come true for me. That's a dream come true for anybody. Obviously, these young players get to be able to make a little bit of money for their efforts and for their natural talent. And also, we as fans and as players of the game are allowed to, play with our favorite players. Like, imagine you using like a Joey Burrow, who is actually Joe Burrow. Imagine actually being able to use him in the game. Like, he's got his face scan, he's got, his actual, face in the game, his real attributes, as opposed to what would be a case in which he would technically be in the game, but he would be a nameless number with a pre-registered, pre-scanned, copy-paste face, and it wouldn't be as accurate or as special. And the way that the community for these games has kept up recently is they have these dedicated community members who hand make every single college football player on a roster and make a roster for that team and put it into the game and update it. Because one of the cool features that these video games have is that they have these downloadable rosters that anybody can download a roster with an internet connection. So as I said, there's a bunch of dedicated gamers who go in and make an accurate representation of the real life players that we're playing today in a video game that's close to 8 years old now. So For example, if I wanted to use, let me see, if I wanted to use the Florida Gators, right? If I wanted to have a franchise mode or a Road to Glory mode or whatever it's called in an NCAA football game, in NCAA 14 from 8 years ago, I would be able to download a roster that has Kyle Trask, Kadarius Toney, a bunch of other, really and completely accurate. Like, these rosters are 100% accurate for the most part. I would be able to play with the 2021 version of the Florida Gators in a 2014 football game because of these dedicated community members. So all of that is to say that if, I don't know who exactly EA Sports would have to work with, but if laws get passed in which college athletes can profit off their likeness, that would just elevate the experience of the football games even more. Obviously, a lot of EA Sports is going to have to be working and marketing with, they're going to have to be working and marketing with these colleges and universities anyway to be able to use the mascot, the tradition, yada yada. So that's something that they're going to have to do regardless. But if athletes are going to be able to profit off their likeness and image, these football games have the potential to be insanely profitable and also insanely fun to play. So I know that this was more of personal news to me. I know that everybody's not into video games, and this is one of the rare instances in which sports and video games get to interact. Even though that's becoming more of a common thing these days, that video games and sports, nerds and jocks are coming together to unite as one. Avengers Assemble. Don't copyright me, Marvel. I'm kidding. I was just kidding about that. But still, I'm really excited about the return of these games, and I hope that in a 3 to 4 years' time, because let's be clear, is that even though that the game was announced to be coming back yesterday, it's going to take 2 to 3 years at the very minimum to be able to code the game, create the game, and by then, who knows, maybe the law will come into fruition that now these players are going to be able to profit off their likeness, and we can have one kick-ass football game. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this segment from the Hard Headed Sports Podcast. You've heard what I've had to say, now I'm interested to hear what you think as well. If you enjoyed this highlight from the show and want to watch more highlights from the show as they come out after the show's completion, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon.